Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Or is it a bad day? It's hard to say because today we are taking a look at Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. Now, this is going up on May the 4th, because May the 4th be with you, whatever, no one cares about Star Wars anymore. Now, I'm of course joined by Rainick.
Yeah.
And Ragekill.
Oh.
Yes, you know, when you're gonna do something so painful, such as playing, or not playing this game, but reviewing this movie, you gotta have multiple people. Because
Can we just pause for 1 second and be like, my god, it's been 20 years! Sorry.
I feel old.
Oh man, I mean, you know, this game that we have as background, it's so pixelated it's not even funny, but it's like, you know, the acting in this is better than the movie, so, yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, there are limitations.
I'd rather play the PS1 game than watch that horrible film. I do, of course, own it on VHS and, of course, DVD. But that's neither here nor there. So, alright, so, when did y'all first see Episode 1?
Yeah, I was working for Namco, and me and my boss were basically, for the month before, having an argument of, okay, who's going to see it first? Thankfully, there was a midnight matinee, so we basically both got off in time so we could watch it.
Alright, is that it? Okay, so, wow. What, it was like 1999?
Yeah, it was May 19th, 1999.
I was in junior high at the time. So, like, you know, there's always this hype. New Star Wars movie, Episode 1. But though I don't think I was...
Well, the hype was
Paid much-
real. I mean, we
Yeah.
at the arcade, we basically set up the old Sega Star Wars arcade, and that thing, yeah, it got massive play.
It was funny because there were those people that'd be like, Episode 1? What? So, yeah, there was definitely hype. I saw it with an old friend, ex-friend's brother at the time. No one else would go with me when I would see it at the time. And this person was definitely the loud type that would always hoot and holler and woo woo woo, yeah, that kind of person. So that was interesting during certain scenes. I watched it and I didn't know what to make of it. Like, because at that time I wasn't like super into Star Wars. I'm not sure if I had the special edition VHS at the time either. So I was like, huh, this is Star Wars. Like, it was alright at the time, I thought, you know. But definitely there were boring chunks in it too. You know, I'm going off the first time watching nostalgia. You know, the pod racing scene in the theater was pretty cool. And then the end part, of course, with like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul was cool. But everything else always kind of dragged on, and there was, you know, those long speeches and stuff.
Yeah,
This little thing
that.
yeah. Huh?
Our when I went to see it, we went as a group. It was basically me, everybody who worked with Namco Arcade Division, and all of our friends from the bookstore and GameStop and all that. We all piled in, way too many people into one truck, and just all saw it together.
Well, my introduction to Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Madness, was a little different from y'all's. Okay, gotta remember, I'm a little younger than both Ragekill and Rainick. I was still a kid at the time. My first introduction to that particular film was actually a novel. I read the junior novelization. In fact, I still remember there was a book fair at the elementary school, so now both of y'all can feel old. Because I was still in elementary. So, yeah, and so I got the book, and I remember being really disappointed by the book. Now, the book is still better than the film, but I was like, what is this? And then, I didn't like Episode 1, the idea, to begin with. I had grown up with Episode 4. I'd grown up with Episode 5 and 6. I'd grown up with all those. And so, the idea that there was going to be a prequel, that was the last thing I wanted to see, because I didn't care. I wanted to see more of the heroes that I'd grown up, well, that I was still growing up with. I didn't really care what Obi-Wan was doing. I didn't really care how Darth Vader came to be. Because as far as I was concerned, spoiler alert, he's dead! Okay?
That's a mentality I have with a lot of prequels out these days.
To be fair, it's a pretty safe mentality to have.
And so, when they came up with that idea, it was just like, why should I care to begin with? Now, the fact that the film was bad doesn't even really factor into it half the time. But I saw the film in '99. My aunt and uncle actually saw it at a midnight showing as well. And they didn't actually say if they liked it or not. At least I don't remember them saying if they liked it or not. So I get the feeling they probably ended up hating it, because it is pretty bad. I finally saw it during the day or something. I honestly don't remember when I saw the film. But I remember absolutely despising it. I know that. I thought it was horrible. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the setting. I didn't like the acting. I didn't like... Everybody likes the lightsaber fight at the end. I didn't like that. And
there's two major gaffes with the lightsaber fight at the end.
It's like...
You're sort of one of the exceptions. When it came out, man, people were either excited or they were confused. But at the time, it seemed like you heard from very little people who said they hated it. Of course, I'm only speaking through my age and being...
I can definitely think of one person who was very disappointed about it, and honestly, it led to some trepidation right before we went to go see it, and that was, of all people, Noah Antweiler.
But...
Hey, here's a little bit of a shocker for anybody listening to this. Before the Spoonie one went, Spoonie, he actually wrote for a publication known as the Knights of the Dinner Table, the Knights of the Dining Table. And he was actually a fairly good reviewer. He got to see the film early, and he absolutely tore into it, like viciously. Remember, this is before he went insane.
This backward was actually a halfway decent guy. So I hated it, and I was their target audience. Remember, I was like 10 or so in '99, I think, and I thought it was just terrible because when you go from episode 4 to episode 1, it is a major change. Nothing feels right about the universe. None of the plot is just idiotic. I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, come on. But, even if the plot was okay, once again, the biggest problem with any prequel is you already know how it ends. You know what's going to happen. Because, it's a prequel. We know Darth Vader we know Anakin's going to become Darth Vader. He can't not. Otherwise, time paradox.
Yep. This is why if you're going to do a prequel, folks, you go ahead and do it with characters not genuinely established. Not your mainline characters, but your side characters or characters that inspire or help develop the lead characters. They almost did it, but they stepped in it when they decided, oh, hey, we'll do a story about Qui-Gon Jinn. And it was, it could have been great. Nope. It wasn't, of course.
So, yes, episode 1 is a film that we have to review. We have to talk about it. We have to remember all of the stuff that happened in it. Who wants to go first? I know I don't.
I guess I will. Alright. We get the traditional, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away sting, which, to be honest, before the rest of the movie kicks in, this is some pretty heady stuff. If, you've seen the Star Wars films, you go in, you don't know what to expect, and then all of a sudden, the THX experience hits you right square in the face between the eyes. It's got some impact. Well, we actually start off kind of strong. The whole explanation of, the Trade Federation is, having some major disputes and a blockade against the Republic across the planet of Naboo. Now, we've never seen Naboo before, so this is completely alien to us. We've only heard about it if you read the novels that, certain characters reporting to episode 4, 5, and 6 were from there. This is something that they never really explored. We get the ship coming in, and 2 robed figures make their way onto the Trade Federation ship. Now, if you're new to this, and you're not coming in, you're coming completely blind, this strikes you as, okay, this is interesting. They're representatives. Well, you find out they're Jedi. It seems like padding here, where they say, oh, we'll go ahead and wait for the representatives. It leads this is false padding. It actually leads to an ambush. The representatives basically say, okay, enough of this, screw this, Jedi, gas them. They seal them off in the chamber, they try to gas them, and, well, like I say, we start off strong. We start off with lightsabers, firing up, and droids getting cut down. Not a bad way to start a movie. It's no episode 4, but not a bad way to start a movie. This leads to a chase into the central part of the ship, where we actually see the ambassadors lock down most of the ship, and then suddenly remember, oh wait, we have blast doors, they have lightsabers. Lock the blast doors!
Excuse me, but I must be going.
But you figure they would have done that first. And so we also see our first version of the Droideka, or the Destroyer Droid. These actually present a pretty good threat to Jedi, because we've never seen them before. We know they've got shield generators, and Jedi can't exactly get through that. They can deflect a blast back, but if it just dissipates in the shield, that means nothing. The standard droids are, cannon fodder du jour, but that's to be expected, and honestly, it does actually have a plot point. The Trade Federation is working on a cheap budget. Cheap droids. Disposable troops.
Great value.
Pretty much. This is the Sam's Club, droid. They need entire freaking control ships to control a lot of them. Although this, later on, is further talked about and explained. Though not in this movie, only in the expanded lore.
Alright, so before we continue with that scene, I want to actually complain about it for a second, because, okay, here's my problem with everything you just said. Now, it sounds okay, right? It's not that horrible. However, it doesn't feel nearly epic in scope as, say, Episode 4. Okay,
no, by no means is it anywhere near that scope.
The entire first scene, which we're actually playing through in the game here, feels like a TV show episode. It feels like the first episode of Star Wars, the prequel, trilogy TV show. Very limited sets. You see, like, one ship fly, and it lands. And you see the 2 guys come out, as Rain was saying. And it's got to sit around. It's like, this feels like it. I can't imagine what the budget must have been, but it feels like it's real low budget. Nothing much is happening.
The funny thing is, the budget was actually higher than the original movies. But here's the reason why it happened this way. The move away from practical effects into SGI. And I say SGI specifically because this is Silicon Graphics workstations that we're working on. Kind of a note, if you're listening to this on a 2-year-old smartphone or a 7-year-old PC, your computing device you're listening to this on, is twice to 32 times more powerful than the computers they use to render the effects for this movie.
That's just nutty. And I gotta say, I guess if that's the reason, then damn, because of that, the film just starts off so slow. And here's the thing. When you see Episode 4, what happens in the first 10 minutes of that movie?
We have a hell of a chase scene. We have quite a few blaster, fights amid a boarding party battle. And, we have our introduction to the big bad, which is Darth Vader.
Now, let's compare that to Episode 1. You have 2 planks of wood talk to more planks of wood. They cut down some droids that are completely no threat to them at all. I mean, these droids, compare that to the Stormtrooper. I'm fighting some right now. The only thing they have going for them is... I'm kind of an audiophile, so I like the way the sound, the clacky sound of the feet. That's the only thing they have going for them, is their clack sounds good. Okay,
no,
that's it.
THX, let's be honest, Lucas does one thing right, and that's sound.
But the droids are just stupid. the droidicas look cool, but that's like one thing. The villain, what do we got? We got basically Space Bill Gates. Or, no, not Space Bill Gates. Space, I don't know, name me like an evil corporate guy in real life.
Space Steve Jobs, I don't know.
No, it's not even really that evil because can't talk. The Nemoidians are, if anything, akin to Space Elon Musk.
There you go, Space Elon Musk. They're like, oh no, the Jedi. It's like, okay, wait a minute. We go from Darth Vader choking some guy out to, oh no, the Jedi. It's like, really? Really?
Well, they don't exactly have the Force.
I know, but still, it's like, that's what we got. We've been waiting 20 years for that. Now, of course, I wasn't waiting 20 years because I wasn't alive for 20 years at the time, but you get the idea. Now, of course...
Well, I wasn't waiting 20 years. Close to it, but not quite.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so they make it off the ship, and then the movie gets worse. Now, keep in mind, this first scene is okay. It's not bad. It's episode 1 of the Star Wars TV show. Now, actually, before we get to the second scene, I know this is taking a while, but I gotta explain. I would have loved to have seen an actual space battle. I would have liked to have seen nothing that actually happened in it. I'd like to see, okay, you got the Republic, they gotta fight some sort of big Sith battle fleet. You got Obi-Wan jumping out, cutting up, Sith or something like that. That'd been a lot better than just, here's some robots.
No, to be fair, this is the start of the war, and to be absolutely honest, it's a hell of a long start. I mean, the quote-unquote war doesn't really start until about 3/4 way through the movie.
Oh, we got so much shit to go through. Now, they make it down to the planet. And that, if you thought the movie was slow before, and it is, it gets so much worse. So they get down to the planet, and they meet everyone's favorite character. Jar Jar. Now, what Jar Jar was meant to be, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, he's meant to be the kid-friendly version of Chewbacca. Because Chewbacca was supposed to be kind of like the kid-friendly character, I think, for the original trilogy. Now, he's a big, furry dog man, and he's kind of cute, okay? Well, I think that's what Jar Jar was meant to be, but Jar Jar is effectively Chewbacca as seen through an idiot's eyes. Because, holy crap.
Yeah, just basically imagine a cross between a salamander and a frog. Give it, I shudder to even say this, but give it rudimentary intelligence and, have it do whippets for the next 10 years.
Sorry.
And that's what you get. You get Jar Jar. That being said,
please make a video of Jar Jar doing whippet.
I would have to find one of the old, Jar Jar masks, but I could probably make it happen. I have to make some phone calls for that, and I'm going to need to find somebody with a good camera. That being said, though, Jar Jar actually wasn't in Lucas. Here's the thing. This entire movie is what happens when nobody tells George Lucas no. Jar Jar is obnoxious, annoying, shrill of voice, flighty of mind, and incredibly quote-unquote clumsy. Now, how Jar Jar was originally written and would finally save, the prequel trilogy, and I say saved loosely, it was saved as in terms of, okay, the house burnt down but nobody died, as compared to the Hindenburg went down and everyone died. What saved it was Jar Jar was not meant to be, this aloof, comic relief only character. The tagline for this movie, The Phantom Menace, was supposed to be exactly that. This is a pseudo spoiler because he got shut down, so this never made it to any form of paperback or to any form of expanded universe lore or any cinematic enterprise whatsoever. The whole game about Jar Jar was he was supposed to be the Phantom Menace. He was supposed to be beguiling in the fact that, oh, he's just an idiot. He'll be fine. Oh, wait. It's all an act. This son of a bitch is far more devious and far more dangerous than you could have ever known.
And that doesn't sound that bad. If it turned out that Jar Jar was really Darth Plagueis, okay, fine. But, my God, who approved the Jar Jar? That's my question. Who,
Well, like I said, nobody told Lucas no, but the thing is, that's how it happened. The reason why he is such an annoying, abrasive, obnoxious, infuriating character is because he was told no, and that character never had the development arc. He was just, oh, look, here's Jar Jar doing something incredibly silly and stupid. Oh, look, here's Jar Jar being afraid. As opposed to, okay, he's afraid, oh, crap. Things are not, we're not in Toto anymore. we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
So, yeah, they get through the swamp, they meet the Jar Jar, and then I think the film cuts to Queen Amidala and the little Trade Federation invasion goes on. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, the invasion actually happens pretty quick.
Yeah, nobody actually fights. Now, in the game, Episode 1, Battle for Naboo, there's actually a little battle, if I'm not mistaken, where you drive around on a flash speeder. That is, of course, not seen in the film. Now, the little... Oh, God. I'm actually in the part of the game where Jar Jar's here, so, like, my brain is, like, trying to just self-destruct.
Yeah, basically you're having the Homer Simpson urge to kill rising.
Now, I got some droids to kill. But that being said, okay, so the little invasion. Now, there is some good cinematography here, though. The little invasion thing where they're driving through Theed looks pretty good. There's a scene with Queen Amidala and her ridiculous dress. I don't get the deal with, like, with the costume work in this film. Like, who puts on... How long did it take her to put that dress on? That's what I want to know.
Well, there's actually some gaps about this, because right as the invasion goes on, she's in one outfit, and the invasion actually happens very, very quickly. I mean, it takes no more than a couple of hours. And yet, by the time she's rounded up with the rest of the delegates, she's in a different costume.
I never noticed that. And like that red dress, man, that's like the most famous one, like, of the film. But my God, like, there's an invasion going on, and it's like, come on, finish it already. Like, could you just put on some fucking jeans or something? I mean, space jeans. But anyway, you got the invasion, and I believe it then cuts back to the swamp at the Gungan City. I think I remember the name of that. I hate the fact that I know all this stuff about this film. I think it's like Oda Gunga or something. And
I do believe you're right. I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Why do I know that? I don't want to know that.
That's Otogunga. Otogunga.
Okay, there we go. But still, I got close. It's like, why do I know that? Why must my brain have space for that? Anyway, they meet Brian.
Well, the city's fine. It's just entire population you want to nuke from orbit.
Yeah. So they meet Brian Blessed, who's like the, and I just got hit by a tree. They meet Brian Blessed, and he's literally just kind of like moves his lips for some reason all the time. That's supposed to be funny, I guess, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's like somebody must have pumped in some serious Looney Tunes into poor Lucas's brain.
So they meet, Brian Blessed. He's like, we're going to kill Jar Jar. And everybody's like, yay! But they don't kill him. Instead, they just give him a submarine. That's just kind of nice of him. Kind of shows that Qui-Gon's kind of a devious bastard, because like he gets a submarine for free.
Well, Qui-Gon actually is the first true gray Jedi.
Really? Makes sense.
He goes against the Council's word, but then he's not a Sith Lord. He, in the expanded lore, you find out that he was actually the only member of the Jedi Knighthood who truly served the Force. He didn't serve anyone else. He served the Force.
The living Force. Which is what he kept talking about to Obi-Wan. But anyway, so you got Qui-Gon getting the submarine. Now, this scene isn't bad, but it's ruined by Jar Jar. Okay, so here's where it can kind of get a little gross, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, like, they're going through the planet's core. Yeah, okay. Do you realize how long that would take in a submarine that probably hits a top speed of, like, 80? Okay, it's like, I don't think the science works here. Just saying.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. And besides, planet's core. I hate to say this, Lucas, but from what we know from empirical science, that's going to be a heavily gravitic magma mess.
they're trying to say like,
I think there's bigger things to worry about than the accurate science of Star Wars.
I realize, but still, it's one of those things. I can understand if they wrote it off as, oh, you're gonna have to go through this cave network, which is very
Episode 3, they
close to the
fought
core.
near hot lava, you know.
hey, that can be justified. In fact, I will justify that when we get to it. But anyway, that's not the gross. So what's the gross part? You might be wondering. Well, Jar Jar's like freaking out, you know, and there's a scene, there's a line where. Actually, I gotta back up a bit. So what happens is he's freaking out, and Qui-Gon like uses the Force to calm him down. But then Obi-Wan is like, "You overdid it." So I like get as a kid and as an adult, I get the feel like did like Jar Jar shit himself or something. I'm just saying.
No. We got to see Gungan O-Face.
Oh God! Did Qui-Gon
No!
did Qui-Gon make him orc? Oh my God!
Oh
no.
God, change the subject fast.
Anyway, so Qui-Gon, you know, makes him come. It's just disgusting.
No, Lotz, no!
Anyway, I don't want Jar Jar to be able to have that happen anyway. He should just be a virgin the rest of his life, which he probably is.
It looks bad. It sounds worse. All that Qui-Gon did was essentially
Qui-Gon jizz.
stop that. All Qui-Gon Jinn did was basically the equivalent of the Vulcan nerve pinch. Basically, you need to sleep now.
Okay, fine. So long as we don't have anything worse than that. So yeah, he does that. Now there's some cool creatures down there, I guess, in the little caves, but God. It goes on a little too long. Jar Jar ruins it, and yeah, it does feel like it feels like a much more kidified version of the asteroid chase from Episode 5.
Although we do get to see a sea beast ripped in half, there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, I guess that works. I'll allow that just because I'm feeling merciful today.
On Jar Jar, for 1 second. So there's like a dozen fan edits in Episode 1. So I wonder if anyone ever thought of the idea, since you can't really delete Jar Jar from the film, what if you just give him a foreign accent? That way, you don't have to deal with him saying stupid shit in English. You like give him some type of alien accent with subtitles, and
Jar Jar with a Scottish accent.
he's mostly fixed.
Just have him speak Korean. No one will ever get it.
Well, I meant general alien, but whatever.
Oh.
Well, he does kind of speak Gungan a little bit, but
Just have
not
him
as
speak
much as
Gungan
what I
through the
wish he
whole
did.
thing.
I know.
And then you cut out some of the slapstick stuff, and you know,
It still can be a shit movie. So anyway, the Jedi make it to Theed. Yes, I know the name of that. And so, you know, there's a little battle. Jar Jar flops around on his ass, because of course he does. I think we get introduced to Captain Panaka there, which is actually one of the few cool characters in the film. Long story short, they make it off the planet, because of course they do, because if they didn't, we'd be stuck on... Anyway, they make it off the planet. We get introduced to a really cool starship, the Royal Yacht, which is this awesome silver... That's another saving grace of the film. The Royal Yacht looks really cool. And it's one of those ships that actually... It's one of the great ships of science fiction canon, because it's a very sleek design. I actually have a little model of it. Although it's supposed to be unarmed, the little flare launchers on it, I just pretended they were photon torpedoes when I was a kid. But anyway, they make it off the planet. We get introduced to R2-D2, because of course, this is where Lucas is trying to weld everything into everything, and it annoys the crap out of me. Apparently, R2-D2 was on the ship the whole time.
He's the only droid that survived the repair process.
Yeah, and it's like, really, R2-D2 was owned by Queen Amidala? Come on, really? Did you have to ruin R2 too? But don't worry, C-3PO's gonna be ruined as well.
Yeah, that said, at least the new model for R2-D2 looks rather nice.
Yes, a cold comfort. Eventually, they do make it to Tatooine for some reason. Now, I don't remember the galactic cosmography, so I don't know exactly if that makes any sense at all for them to go straight to Tatooine, because I don't know if Naboo is actually in the Outer Rim. But
here's the thing: Naboo was not truly Outer Rim. I'm going to chalk this up to, remember this is before the D20 rules, so them going to Tatooine, not technically right. I mean, there's no real straight shot at Tatooine. Though, remember, this is early universe, so I will cut them some slack. They didn't have the whole maps out. We had some EU lore, but we didn't have anywhere near the amount of EU lore at the time of this movie's release as we did in, say, the Clone Wars animated series. By that time, we had all the EU lore pretty much coalesced into one solid firmament.
Okay, so maybe it's one of those things where, of course, they end up on Tatooine, though. I mean, this is one of the things you'll notice about the prequel trilogy as we go along is there's a lot of plot convenience playhouse going on. Of all the planets they could have gone between Naboo and there, they go straight to Tatooine, though. I mean, it's like, because of course they have to, because that's where, Anakin's gonna be. So they land on Tatooine, and they're out of space gas, and they can't afford to get... Oh, and the hyperdrive's broken. That's what happened. The hyperdrive's broken, and they're also out of space gas, I assume.
Yeah, they needed a refuel and a refit.
Now
they need space bucks.
Yes. They only put $5 in the tank, so... So, this is where the movie gets really stupid. I'm going to be saying this a lot because the movie gets really stupid. Okay, so, you got the Jedi, you got a ship that's worth a lot of money. What's the first thing you do when it doesn't work? Sell the fucking thing, buy a cheapo rattle trap, and fly to Coruscant. Boom, movie over. But no.
Yes and no. Remember, Tatooine back then was still a home for smugglers and all that. But unless you're doing some serious favors for Jabba, you're going to have a really hard time even getting a rattle trap off that planet.
Okay, fine. Stop defending it!
Sorry, I hate to be the rules lawyer here, but sanctioned DM.
So, of course, they then go to a junk heap shop with Watto. Oh my god, this character is annoying.
Oh, you think he's annoying here? Wait till you play the games.
I'm in the game now, although I can't find my way to get to where I need to be. But whatever, we don't care. Okay,
Have you seen the Matanza Cube? I swear if I hear that thing one more goddamn time, I'm gonna...
It's, Watto. And we, of course, get introduced to little orphan Annie, played by Jake Lloyd. I don't feel bad. Okay, I don't feel that Jake Lloyd's that bad of an actor. He was a kid. How is he supposed to work with this shit? Okay.
Actually, most of the problems with his acting isn't his acting. It's some of the crap that Lucas piped in afterwards, like the yippee and shit like that. Which is in Foley. That's Lucas. I'm actually going to defend him because, kid, he was doing the best he can with the script he got. Remember, at the time this movie came out, I was taking care of my nephew who was roughly the same age. I can kind of forget that.
And the lines they gave him were just shit. I mean, okay, are you an angel? Who wrote them? That sounds as bad. That's got to be Lucas. I'm blaming that on Lucas.
That's all Lucas.
What? Okay, I was 12 once, many years ago. I would have never said that to a hot chick. And Natalie Portman's not that hot, but still, whatever. Like, come on, are you an angel? Come on.
What? Sorry about Natalie Portman? No, I'm kidding.
Oh my.
She's too skinny for my taste. Way too skinny.
Don't look to me. I will go on record for saying that Vasquez from Aliens is superior.
Yeah, she's also too skinny.
Okay.
But Natalie Portman's a fantastic actor when she's not doing this stuff, though.
Okay, well, see, the problem with this film is the lack of direction. Everybody's a plank of wood. Okay, everyone is a wooden plank, and Natalie Portman is no exception.
But Liam Neal, he can get away with acting like a plank of wood and still being a badass, though.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. So, of course they can't afford the ship for the Nubian spacecraft, whatever.
Which is the dumbest name ever. Sorry, but it is.
Yes, it is. So, of course, they gotta enter Anakin into the pod race, because of course they do. We meet Anakin's mother, Shmi Skywalker, who apparently is the Virgin Space Mary, because, I just had the kid, and okay, whatever.
Yeah, this would be retconned later, but as Lucas wrote it before the retconning, he actually was an immaculate birth. He was essentially the will of the Force. And yes, I know, midichlorians and all that horse hockey, that was just used to explain that the kid was the will of the Force.
Mm-hmm. Lotz, you need to narrate an abridged version of episode 1 with your writing. It'd just be hilarious.
Okay.
And then the space Virgin Mary goes on.
Well, I mean, that's what she is. So, anyway, you got the Space Virgin Mary, and she's all like, I don't like it when Anakin does the pod races, but oh well, he can do it to help you. And, of course, Anakin, at age 8 or 11 or however the fuck old he's supposed to be, can build his own space hot rod, because of course he can. Which I guess is somewhat keeping with canon, because he's like, he was a great star pilot, buddy, buddy, buddy. But seriously, come on. And also, he built C-3PO. Come on! Really? He did that too?
Here's the thing. For all we know, protocol droids could be like the, Raspberry Pi of our generation. I can teach an 8-year-old how to build a Raspberry Pi and teach them the basic rudiments of coding in BASIC. Now, I suck at coding, I'll be honest, but BASIC I'm fine with. I can show them that. Don't ask me to show them C# or anything like that. My head will explode.
I don't even know what that is. So my head already blew up. But anyway, so you got C-3PO, we got all the crap, and then there's the pod race, because we're gonna keep moving. We gotta keep moving forward, otherwise we're gonna probably want to just slit our own wrists here. The pod race is a scene that everybody loved. I hated it. So what are y'all's thoughts on that before I rip it apart?
I thought it dragged too long, but that being said, it did make for some fine gaming in both the arcade game, which came a year after, almost a year after. It was like 9 to 10 months after, and pretty darn good games on the Dreamcast, PC, and N64. But honestly, too long of a scene for the movie. This is not a NASCAR movie. This is Star Wars.
Rage.
Yeah, it was neat seeing on the big screen the first time. But yeah, repeated viewings and stuff does run a bit long. And like Rain said, it did inspire some pretty fun video games. But not the worst. I think it was like the worst or anything. But it doesn't hold up on repeated viewing. Yeah.
All right.
No, it is funny because you can notice the stunt double. Anakin's hands become magically bigger during a certain.
Yeah. Force-inspired growth spurts go.
Well, when he's got big hands, But anyway, I don't even want to think about that. But that being said, as a kid, I did not like it. It is a cheap imitation of. Now, I will say the games were good. Let me stress that the games were great. So it is a minor saving grace. I did not like it as a kid. I found it to be boring. I found it to be. The question I asked as a kid, and I'll ask as an adult. Now, what is the name of this movie? Is it
Phantom Menace, right? I mean, you're trying to ask what Phantom Menace is?
Sure as hell ain't Space NASCAR.
The problem is, it's Star Wars. It's not Star Racing. It's not Wacky Races with Yogi Bear. It's Star Wars. And so there is some shooting that goes on. Some Tusken Raiders, they shoot one of the pod racers. But still, come on! Where's the war? We haven't had a war for like 30 minutes now. We've had people driving in the desert. Yay?
Well, the problem is they could have actually solved this slightly. Now, it would have been a lot harder to produce. But they could have shown, drag out the invasion of Naboo just a little bit and actually show interstitials, insertionals of the actual combat. That would have given us the war.
But who asked to see Vader child anyway?
This is why I say, if you're going to go with a prequel, go with non-established characters, side characters.
It's kind of like with the prequel to The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. It was a completely different story that set it all up. This is not like that. And
you're going to get another side story like that. If Amazon has their way, you're going to get the Silmarillion.
And so we shall see if that's any good. But then again,
here's hoping.
So let's see, where were we? So Pod Racer. Yeah, I have no time for you, Jar Jar. Go fuck yourself.
At least we get to see him fry his face. It shuts him up for a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's a scene where that does happen, where he does stick his tongue inside like the power cable, the pod. That should have killed him. That should have fucking killed him, and he should be dead. But no, he's still alive.
We could talk about the deleted scenes.
Oh, he had his hand stuck in the engine intake of a turbine engine. And Anakin was seconds in firing it on. We could have ended the Jar Jar problem, the Phantom Menace, right there. Fire up the engine, he gets sucked through it, and there ain't no way he's surviving that. Chunky giblets.
Yeah, but this is the world we live in, not the world we want. Rage, what deleted scenes? I try not to watch
I don't know. There was like a stupid deleted scene where like the animals like farts or some shit. And
No, that was in the movie.
Jar
I
Jar
forgot about
plays
that.
what? Oh wait,
That's right on the racing line.
Oh,
Yeah, the fart joke. Because okay, remember this is Star Wars, the film that changed science fiction forever. And now we've got a fart joke in it. Welcome to the future, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot about that.
And you ever want to wonder where we entered the bad timeline? This is probably right around where it happened.
I'm just going to support Thanos from now on. But
which version, comic book or MCU? Because if you go to saying MCU, oh man, are you screwed?
Oh god, no! I don't even want to know, because I'm already being pained by this, by even reliving the horror of Episode 1. So anyway, we got fart jokes. We've got more bad writing coming in. So like, of course, Anakin wins, and you know, yay. But here's the problem. This is where we can definitely see the plot convenience playhouse yet again. So Anakin, you know, he has a mother, and he's a slave on Tatooine and all the rest, but we don't really care about that because it doesn't even really matter. Now, does Qui-Gon, you know, free the slave by cutting up water with his lightsaber? Nope. He just like he accepts the deal that allows Anakin to go free, but leaves the mother in bondage because nice Jedi that has to follow the rules, right? Instead of cutting up the obvious slave holder with the lightsaber.
Well, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
Oh god, no.
Because in the original scene, when they first met them to get out of the dust storm, Anakin explains, and oddly enough, this is never mentioned again, is that each slave on that planet actually has an embedded chip. We don't know where the chip is on each individual, but it's in there, and should they leave a certain radius, boom.
You know,
they essentially are meat puppets.
There's still an easy fix for that, though. Why can't Qui-Gon use the Force? Find it.
That's a problem with that. Yes, you could, but what if it's in their nervous system?
Yeah.
There's no removing that.
And then why doesn't he just like hold a lightsaber to Watto's neck and like, you know, take the chip out or I'll fucking cut you up? You know, Jar Jar...
Because Watto would be able to call his bluff because mind tricks don't work on his kind.
Yeah, but a lightsaber to the neck does.
Yeah, but remember, Qui-Gon Jinn may be a gray Jedi, but he's still a Jedi. He serves the Force. He's the only one to serve the Force, and murder like that's going to earn you some dark side points.
Yeah, just don't tell the DM, it'll be okay.
Right.
I'm not going to tell the DM. I'll do it when he's like off getting a Mountain Dew. So anyway, you know, Mountain Dews aside, we of course, you know, have Smee get left behind because of course that's what happens. This is where we finally get introduced to, I almost said Darth Mountain Dew. I don't know why.
It kind of fits, actually. I mean, I like Ray Park, but he's kind of playing edgelord here, so yeah, I'll take it. Darth Mountain Dew works.
Alright, so we got Darth Mountain Dew. He, of course, is like this tatted up. Wait, I don't think we see his tats until later on.
No, you actually see his tats. Those lines on his face. Zabreks don't have that. They have skin tones very similar to normal people, ranging from deeply tan to pale.
Alright, so we got the tatted up Sith Lord that is Darth Maul. And I even know the name of his fucking motorcycle. Because, yeah, I know way more about Episode 1 than I want to know. So he's got, you know, the Bloodfin motorcycle, and he chases down Qui-Gon and Anakin and all the rest. And, of course, I hit the box because I'm an idiot. But anyway, so, you know, you got Anakin and all the rest. There's a little lightsaber duel, but it doesn't last nearly as long as you'd like. And even then, even if it had lasted a long time, I still wouldn't have cared because I still dislike this film.
So there's also a gaffe here. The lightsaber battle goes on, and Qui-Gon, for all we know right now, just has a long-handled lightsaber. You know, red artificial kyber crystal, you know, basically a Zweihander. In the fight, which actually, I will say this, for all the fights in this Episode 1, while they are limited and someone like me will be able to spot the gaffes a mile away and call them out on them, the sword fights here are more realistic than the lightsaber battles in the following 2 episodes, and especially the animated series. Now, those are entertaining. This is closer to episode 4, 5, and 6, Kinjutsu style lightsaber battles. But the gaff is Qui-Gon Jinn manages to escape onto the Nubian ship, which, sorry, I cannot ever say that with a straight face because I actually know what the term Nubian means. You see him, turn off his saber, and he's back in. The scene when he's back in, you see him turn off his saber. As if he didn't turn it off while he was on the loading ramp.
Yeah. Oops. Oh, and then we got the ship scene. Now, in the novel, it's not too bad, because it kind of implies that, Tatooine's really hot and, the ship's really cold. But my thought is this, why doesn't he just crank the heater up? I mean, come on.
My thought is, this is a controlled environment. I mean, a starship, for it to work, it has to be insulated.
Yeah.
And it's not just because for creature comfort of the crew. I mean, for fuel lines to work, they need to be well insulated.
Yeah. And if it was cold in space, wouldn't they? Anyway, moving along. That scene is stupid. We got it. Let's hurry this along. Okay, so they get to Coruscant. We meet Senator Palpatine. And, Ian McDermott does a pretty good job, but I think once again we got some bad direction because he sounds evil from the get-go. He just sounds evil. So, this is where the movie really slows down. We've already been saying that a lot. So, that's when there's a thing, we can have a vote of no confidence with Chancellor Valorum, and they go, blah, 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 blah. They make it back to Naboo, movie's over, the end, let's go home.
Oh, no. We unfortunately have quite a bit to go. You can't just clip notes this one.
No!
I know, but it's our duty. Ours is not to question why. Well, okay, maybe it is to question why, but ours is also to do and die.
Where's my Kool-Aid? I will escape it one way.
You're not going to be able to use the cyanide or your Explodo molar.
Okay, so we got the Coruscant scene. Basically, this is where Chancellor Palpatine moved. No, well, not Chancellor yet. Senator Palpatine makes his move to take over the Republic, and he does. But still, nothing can happen. No one can save Naboo from the obvious invasion, because why not? The Jedi don't help either. So much for peacekeepers. Because it's like, sorry, we help those who help themselves. So, of course, Queen Amidala and all the rest head. And of course, they take Anakin with them, because reasons. To go back to Naboo to free it from the Trade Federation. So you've got 2 Jedi, an 11-year-old kid, or however the fuck old he is, and a bunch of palace guards who probably shoot once a year. Oh dear. Now, of course, we've got Jim Jam Binks, who's like, well, we go to Gungan's sacred place to get help. So now we've got more Jar Jaring around. Now, of course, they come up with a plan to, try to capture the Trade Federation leadership, and then have a big field battle and all the rest. So, I love this here. It's like, we need a navigator, Obi-Wan. You must find and rescue Jar Jar Binks. Why do we need that worthless creature?
Admittedly, we shouldn't, but that being said, he's the only one they know on the planet that knows the planet.
You sense that I look down upon them. No, it's more than that. I do look down upon him. It should be obvious, Qui-Gon. I don't. I have not played this PS1 game in many years. I forgot that I had to find Jar Jar Binks, so I actually have to look for this bastard. But go on.
Oh, make no mistake. Obi-Wan basically does call him a pathetic life form out of Jar Jar's earshot. That's actually pretty hard to do because those are some damn long ears.
Well, if he's got big ears, then you know. But anyway.
No!
Okay, so you got... What's effective...
So you're telling me Jar Jar's not only doing whippets, but he's also doing poppers.
Yes.
That's the last possible combination anyone needs.
Okay, so we've got multiple battles going on. You got the battle to retake Theed. You've got the battle in space. You don't think you get the battles in space for a little while, though. But you'll eventually get a battle in space. You'll then get the lightsaber duel. And I think that's it, actually.
Yeah, the battle in space. The only reason it's won is Anakin hides out in a Naboo starfighter, cockpit. Which actually, I gotta admit, I kind of do have a semi-soft spot for the Naboo starfighter. And he's sitting there trying to figure out which one's the trigger. He ends up powering up the entire system, and it's on autopilot.
Oops. So yeah, the Naboo starfighter looks pretty good. I have to agree with that. With Rain's assessment of it, it sort of looks like a Space 57 Chevy in some instances.
So my boss, when I worked, it's a really weird coincidence. I switched jobs as soon as Namco shut down their arcade division. I'd worked for a local tool business called Tool House. My boss, Bill, was a really good guy. What I didn't know when I signed on was he was also a massive Star Wars fan. This is, a construction worker. You'd never guess it of him. He doesn't look like a geek in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So I'm working about 6 months there, and I go through storage to go put up some tools and things like that, and go grab some map gas canisters because we're running low. And at the back of the storage, I actually see he's got one of the huge display Naboo starfighters from Toys R Us.
Oh.
The ones you couldn't buy. And I was like, "Can I buy that from you, Bill?" I was like, "Nope, that's mine."
I do have the action figure scale Naboo starfighter.
This thing is tall too. I mean, the Star Wars Naboo starfighter is like 4.5 feet long.
Damn. Love to have had one of those. But anyway, Space Battle looks pretty good. It's sort of like a pale reflection of the Episode 4 fight. In fact, I'd liked it if some of the pilots could have been like the main characters. Now, they are main characters in the Episode 1 Battle for Naboo game. I think the main guy in that was Gavin something or other. Gavin Stevens or something like that. And he actually was a pretty cool character. So not all was bad about Episode 1, just the movie. The battle for Theed was a lot better in the game as well, but wasn't too bad in the film. Natalie Portman actually kind of looks fairly tough, even though she looks like she weighs like all of 80 pounds.
Well, thankfully it doesn't take that much to fire a blaster. They are low recoil. Although hers is hilarious because her blaster is literally just chromed bits and the barrel is that of a barbecue lighter.
Yep. I also like the sound of that blaster, though. The quah sound. Sounded neat.
Yeah, it has an interesting sound effect to it.
So, then we've got, of course, the lightsaber duel. Now, I'll give my assessment. You can tell us why it is the horrible lightsaber duel that it is. I did not like it because it went on way too long. I mean, my God, that was like 10 minutes of... And this is something that Red Letter Media mentioned, is that you don't care about any of the characters or what's going on. And that's true. We don't care about Obi-Wan because he's a plank of wood. Don't care about Qui-Gon because he's a plank of wood. We don't really care about what's going on because everybody's a plank of wood and we all know what's going to happen. Darth Maul looks cool. If you just watch the fight without having seen the rest of the movie, Darth Maul steals the show because he's this shadowy figure. He's got the double-bladed lightsaber and he does a lot of really cool moves. When he first lights it up, he's like, that's awesome. Okay? And then it goes on and on and on, and finally it ends.
Yeah, it's a running chase scene. The problem with the double lightsaber, Ray Park actually found this out. All right, we're going to go over the first gaffe. Is right before they get to the inner chamber next to the generator, is the amazing whiff kick. He is fending off Qui-Gon Jinn to his right and Obi-Wan to his left. Now, normally the kick should have been about chest level, but Ray's got his foot up at face level, and you just see the actor playing Obi-Wan see this and just throw himself backwards. You have the amazing, force whiff kick. That didn't even come in within, a half foot of the actor's face. We're fast forward about 2 minutes, because that's how long this fight is. This is not... Sword fights are very, very short things if you're not used to the idea. This whole, we fought until, the sun and moon went down or came up or whatever and all this. No, that doesn't happen. Sword fights are over quick. Ray Park as Darth Maul, it shows why the double-bladed lightsaber is very, very impractical, except for certain scenarios. And he goes to pass it roughly around his waist, and he would have cut himself in half. Because a blade definitely makes contact with his belt. But this battle does go on too long. It goes on for like 4 to almost 5 minutes. And it's so long that, you know, when we get to the generator shielding scene, Qui-Gon just says, screw it. Blocked by an impenetrable wall. Kneel down, force meditation.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this actually was covered in the novels more. This actually has a plot important point for the future of the series. Qui-Gon Jinn was the first person to discover how to become a Force ghost, and this is where he did it. He actually meditated so damn hard that he basically said, hey, whoa, I can actually project myself outside my body. Cool.
Now here's my problem with that, though. What about all the Sith that could do it already?
This is true, because that was retconned in, so I will have to give you that, because it is canon.
Yay.
It is post-scriptum canon, but it is canon.
Yeah, because I remember talking to one of those Sith ghosts in KOTOR 4,000 years before. Just saying.
Yep. Like I said, it's post-scriptum canon, but officially it is canon.
Oh, so once, Ray Park finally, kills Qui-Gon, then there's, of course, Obi-Wan's like, no! One of the funny things is that actually became a meme from Red Letter Media, the "oh" sound effect, which is hilarious, because that works with so many things now. That ends, of course, Obi-Wan wins and cuts, Ray Park in half.
Well, Obi-Wan, right before that last shield goes down, you can tell he's pissed. He's literally hopping at this moment. He's just like, okay, get me at the bastard. I mean, he's earning some dark side points from that one.
God damn it, must you always be such a killer DM?
Just being honest, he's fighting with rage here. Now, it's not much of a dark side point. He only earns a total of 2 here.
Oh, thank God for that. Or thank the Force. So yeah. Now, there's a problem with killing Ray Park, though. He gets cut in half and gets thrown down a reactor shaft. Here's my question. Why exactly does he keep coming back? I get that he was popular, but he comes back in the TV show, and it's like they keep bringing him back, and it's like, oh, come on.
Admittedly, yeah, that is overdone. My question is, as a Sith Lord, yeah, I know you're basking in the whole "I'm evil" sort of thing, but why is he sitting there right before he bites the green burrito, just sitting there right over the edge of the exhaust pit, just sitting there slapping his lightsaber across the edge of it? It's like, okay, number one, that's vandalism, and that's vandalism belonging to a planet that you want to take over. Not a good idea. Number two, you have dark side Force powers. Your opponent is literally hanging on to a small ballast by his fingertips. Would it kill you to use Force Push, Force Lightning, or hell, pull it out of your ass and go Force Tickle and have him just let go?
But no, he gets cut in half, and then, there's the peace celebration where they hold up the little plasma orb. Peace. The end. Let's go home.
Oh, we haven't blown the exhaust of this bad boy just yet. We've got to understand.
It hurts.
I'll make it brief.
It hurts.
I know, we're all hurting here. For all of this, the Declaration of Peace, they literally send the envoys of the Trade Federation to Nemoidians, who we know will try their best to get away from this crap, on a ship with minimal guard. I'm sorry, but, they just essentially enacted civil freaking war. Don't you think it would have been smart to, send the freaking Jedi to make sure they get there?
It just hurts so much. And let's not even get into the fact that it's implied throughout the film that like they put people in camps and were like using them as slave labor, so they just literally nothing happens to them. It's like, oh come on, this is like a Saturday morning cartoon from like 1982. The actual amount of effort put into this was just. So that, of course, is episode 1 of the Phantom Madness. Even at the time, you could actually see like some behind-the-scenes stuff of people showing getting shown like a work print of this, just staring in awe at the shit, at the utter crappiness of this film.
That being said, very much like the Disney movies, but I will say, I'll save my opinion for it. Like the Disney movies, it was a spectacle, simply because the effects for their time were really quite good. Now, that being said, I do not like them anywhere near as much as the practical effects of episode 4, 5, and 6.
And I didn't even think they looked that good as a kid. I mean, they don't. I guess the thing is, for me, I have to ask, like, what exactly did the effects even do? I mean, were the lightsaber effects that amazing?
Compared to the rotoscoping, the lightsaber effects were quite a bit better, and it saved Lucas a hell of a lot of time and money having to animate each frame of the 24 frames per second of the glow of the lightsaber, so that did help.
For me, my throat is trying to kill itself right now to try to take the pain away, but for me, I didn't like anything about it, especially back when I was a kid. There was no saving grace for me because I didn't like the characters, didn't like the setting, and the effects could have been like true to life, and I still would have thought it looked like crap. So, for me, it is a film that will always be one of the worst films I've ever seen. I do own it on DVD and VHS, but it is something that I don't consider it Star Wars. I never really have. I don't consider any of the prequels particularly Star Wars. And that film, I think, is by far the worst of the prequels. Episode 2, actually, while being a worse film, has more saving graces than Episode 1 does. And we will definitely cover that in the Episode 2 review. Overall, for me, Episode 1 was always going to be a letdown. There was no way I was actually going to like Episode 1, just because I didn't want a prequel. I wanted more of the characters that I'd grown up with. You know, Han, Luke, Leia, all of them. I wanted more of that, and you just didn't get it. You didn't get any of that. You got... What characters you did get were either planks of wood, or you already know what's going to happen. You know, I didn't want to see Darth Vader as a kid, because we know what happens to him. We know he dies. Okay? We know that it's going to happen. So
no one's ever really dead. Sorry.
Well, evidently...
Here's the sad part. Remember, when this movie released, there were scalpers. There were people who paid on May 19th, 1999, up to $100 a ticket to see this.
Mm-hmm. I can't recommend enough check out the comedy film Fanboys. About a group of people going to see episode 1. Or they try to break in to Lucas' house to see it early.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
As a 10 to 20, that is just not worth it.
Yeah, Seth Rogen plays a Star Trek. So, yeah, really worth it.
Overall, it is a film that I do not recommend in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, but there is so much worse, young Padawan.
I know, but that's actually one other thing that... Let's see, I have the security key? I do?
You have yet to see the true depth and horror of the dark side.
It must be very important if I have a
Oh.
We have such sights to show you. Oh,
Wrong film, but same sentiment.
And that's one of the funnier things about the Phantom Menace. Like, I say it's terrible, but you know what? The Disney Wars are much worse. We look at Darth Emo, Kylo Ren. You know what was really annoying? Is there's a lot of vanity plates with that. You see him going down the street. I saw one the other day. I was like, my God, somebody paid money for that. To have Kylo Ren, and it was somebody in like a $70,000 Raptor truck. Like, why are you sullying such an awesome truck with Kylo Ren? But that is neither here nor there, ladies and gentlemen. My final assessment of Episode 1. It is the worst of the prequels, but certainly not the worst of the Star Wars movies.
While I will agree that this is not a good movie, it at least gives us some interesting fights, if slightly gimped. It has okay costume design, great sound design, absolutely astonishing sound design, and gave us some okay games, but honestly, I'll take this, warts and all, as horrible as it is, 1,000 times over I will, even so much as 1 second of any Disney-owned property.
Oh, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about those in 2020. So, Rage, what are your thoughts on episode the first?
I agree with mostly what Rain said. I mean, episode 1 is definitely was never favorite or anything. Had a few, I thought, fun moments in it, but a lot of drag and, well, I'm not going to repeat everything we just discussed. I mean, if you're someone out there that likes it, good for you. Like, there are people who do love all the...
never mind.
There are people who do love all the political stuff they put in it and whatnot, and I mean, so hey, whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, I kind of prefer 4, 5, and 6. I didn't hate episode 7 as much as everyone else, but eventually we'll get to the rest. We can discuss it then. But
2020, when that comes around, us covering those horrible atrocities, we're going to quickly learn why the saying "hindsight is always 20/20" comes to mind.
Yes, indeed. All right.
all I can really say about episode 1 is the nostalgic stuff. I mean, like, there was so much hype back then, and there, Lotz, you're definitely. Oh, like even Rain pointed out, there were still some people that hated it, but man, if you were in junior high and stuff, there were so many big groups that love that crap. It's like it's almost like there was that Star Wars cult kind of thing, man. If you don't like it, oh no, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's a video, I think I showed it to you, where like people were rushing in and out of the theater light, and they were asking people, and everyone was like, "Yeah, it's great." And only one person in that video was like, "Eh." So it's kind of funny how.
Everybody was upon release. Here's the thing: it's the same thing that got, the first Disney Star Wars movie off the ground. It's the fact that everybody's riding that wave of euphoria. Everybody's, if you can't, glaze over their eyes with lies, befuddle them with bullshit. And that's exactly what this film did to those people. And then they rewatch it and they realize, oh wait, it's kind of a fridge horror moment. It's like, okay, that's fine. And then, a year later in life, it's like, oh my dear sweet angry God, what did I watch?
Pretty much. Oh, I had so much. I still do much episode 1 swag because I like that stuff. I like the action figures; they were pretty good. The droids, while lame, made for some pretty neat action figures. Some of the Naboo stuff looks pretty cool, like the land speeders. Speaking of the swag, before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I actually they released, I forget who they were, I think it might have been Toys R Us. Somebody released, at some point, a preview pack of Micro Machines that you could get. It was a bit of wall, because everyone loves that bit of wall. One land speeder with like a couple of troops, and I think maybe Jar Jar? I don't remember exactly, because it's been a long time. I still have them. And it's like, I was as hyped as I was ever going to be, but I was not really ready for the film, and I didn't like it when I saw it. So, Episode 1, The Phantom Madness. It's a film that I do not recommend, even for bile fascination, because you'll immediately find that the biggest problem with that film, despite all we've said, is that it's boring.
Yeah. Long spells of nothing.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy who actually reads a lot of, books and manga, which are really focused more on the political than anything else, and this does drag. That being said, most disturbing piece of swag to come from that movie, the Jar Jar opening mouth sucker.
Ew.
Sucker was literally Jar Jar's tongue.
Oh god, no. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
That is the most disgusting thing. It's like, why are you...
It's the most horrifying thing to see.
Yeah, it's like...
It's funny though. In episode 2 and 3, how Jar Jar kind of shuts up on those.
Well, not only does he shut up, but all he does is go, in episode 3, which is more than enough. Shouldn't he have died in the Great Purge? Just saying.
Actually, I don't think he did. I think, we never really know what happened to him. We either assume that he dies in the Great Purge, which is possible, or that he's ultimately the galaxy's largest outcast for what he did.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. At the end of the Return of the Jedi Uber Special Deluxe Edition, that sure sounded like Jar Jar said, "We set free."
Okay.
Though I've heard other people say it's just a random Gungan. So,
Oh no, I don't think that's Jar Jar, because remember, Gungans, they have an okay life period, but that's several years after the fact.
It's Jar Jar
oh no,
Jr.
just kid.
Not the Junior
I don't think he
Jones.
lived long enough to have a kid. Remember, he was banished from his own home city.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's episode 1.
Can we get a spin-off sitcom where Jar Jar's living in a crappy apartment, trying to make it in the world?
That's too good for him.
I have a feeling it'll be like, Game of Thrones. Shame! Shame!
Oi. So, finishing the thing on the one Lotz.
Well, that's episode 1. Was at one time the worst Star Wars movie ever made. Now it is merely one of the worst Star Wars movies ever made. And
It's now one of those movies that if it comes on late at night, you're not going to question it. You're just going to watch it. You're not going to like it, but you're just going to watch it.
I'm not. I'm gonna watch. I'd rather watch paint dry. But anyway, paint drying aside. All right, that's episode 1. I'm General Lotz. We couldn't find Jar Jar anywhere, thankfully. Now I no longer have to play the episode 1 game because just playing the game is painful. All right, we're gonna see you again, ladies and gentlemen, in the episode 2 review. And if you thought episode 1 dragged, episode 2, oh my God, it's even worse. But for now, I am General Lotz.
And I'm Radic.
Rage kill, I guess.
And we're going to wish you good episode 4, 5, and 6, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.